Welcome to Lawline with your host, Alan Schnurman. Mr. Schnurman is a distinguished trial attorney, author, and lecturer. Each week, Lawline will bring you the most knowledgeable experts in the field of law today. And now, we introduce our guests and our host, Alan Schnurman.
Welcome to Lawline. In today's economy, it's even more crucial that the business uses every tool available to succeed. Today we'll look at how to attract and build relationships to maximize your company's growth. Our guests are Nancy Fox, founder of Fox Coaching Associates and author of 2 books on this topic, Making Rain Without Pain and The 60-Second Coach. We also have David Schnurman, a regular on our program. David is president of Lawline.com and TrueNYC.com. He's also, as many of you know, my son, and I'm delighted to have him with us once again. Hello, Nancy. Hello, David.
Hi.
Okay, Nancy, if I'm starting a new business, I got a great idea, I got a great product, or I'm an attorney and I'm opening up a new office. How do I get clients? How do I sell my product?
That's it's a tough question, and most people are absolutely, they're frozen when they deal with this issue in the beginning. So you really need a system. You need to start with a few steps that are going to get you sort of build the foundation. And what I really advise people to do is to think very clearly about who they're really trying to attract. Most people don't even spend time thinking about who they want to be working with, who their ideal clients should be or will be, and so they don't sit down and map it out on a piece of paper. They have no plan, so they go out there and start networking every possible place they can, and they start collecting business cards, and before you know it, they're sitting there facing a whole pile of business cards with not knowing exactly what to do with them. So the start is really thinking about who you want to work with.
David, you started 2 companies, not just 1, but 2. What's your secret?
Well, relationships and networking is really the name of the game, not only in business, but in life. You don't want to be sitting at your desk, staring at a computer, and building a business. It's just too tough. So what I did initially when I started Lawline and TrueNYC was I looked at my own bank of contacts from law school, from college, and just from entrepreneurs that I've met in general. And what I did was I started contacting them and telling them what I was doing, telling them any questions that I had or any ideas that they might be able to give. And the more conversations I had with other entrepreneurs, the more ideas I got for Lawline and how to develop the business. But more specifically, what I did with TrueNYC and what I recommend for everybody is I started interviewing entrepreneurs. And I asked them questions similar to this, things that I wanted answers for myself. And I took that and I put that on a platform, whether it was on the TV show or you write a blog article. That's the best way really to start really building contacts that turn into relationships. As Nancy was saying, if you go to a networking event, you get 30 cards, you come back, you don't really know what to do with it. I still have a bag of probably 500 cards that I haven't done anything with from the past year. And every day I'm saying I'm going to get to it. So it's really about learning about other people, and then in your mind thinking, how can I apply this to whatever business I'm trying to build? Specifically for an attorney, you want to really think about the relationships on who you know, because it's all about getting clients to trust you. And Nancy's a specialist in this area, but it's a little bit different, I would say, than if you're building a business and trying to launch a product.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Nancy, let's take it to the next level. I've done exactly what you suggested. I focused on who I want to approach. I focused on what type of practice I want to have. Well, how do I get clients?
So
I'm here on the 20th floor. Where are you?
Right. Aren't you coming to me right away? Because I'm really a smart attorney. I know exactly what I'm doing.
I have a sign out my window.
Right, and I'm the best. I know. So even before, so just one more step that I would add into that equation, and that is to really know who the true decision maker is, even if you know the ideal client. You have to know who the decision maker is in a particular company. It could be a number of different people, and at different size companies, it's a different individual or different title. Once you realize that, then you have to sort of work backwards where those people are hanging out. Networking, not all networking is created equal. That is the biggest problem that people fall prey to. They make the big mistake about going to all these recommended networking events.
Sure.
You have to work backwards. So what David did was he wanted to work with entrepreneurs in the beginning, and so he started speaking to entrepreneurs and getting input from them. Similarly, a lawyer would really want to think about what associations, where are his ideal clients congregating? Where are they hanging out? you don't want to be hanging out with other lawyers. Most lawyers hang out with other lawyers. And that's okay because they will refer business to each other. But you have to really know where your ideal clients are congregating, where they're speaking, where they're associating, and start to integrate yourself into those associations and those organizations.
Dave, we're in the world of the internet. We're in the world of advertising. How do you use those two things to get clients and sell your product?
I mean, it's a game changer, and I think we're really at the stage where I've been on the show a few times over the years, and we're now, I think, at a stage where lawyers that I've seen are really using the internet as a brand. There's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn,
social
there's
networking.
HubStreet, which Nancy runs.
Which one is that?
It's called HubStreet.
Okay.
It's for lawyers, accountants, and I think people in the finance industry.
HubStreet?
Correct. And these are different online social networking spaces. What I do is you have to create the same brand of yourself on all these platforms. Eventually, there might be one platform that entitles all online social networking, but now what you want to do is every time you have information to share, ideally you want to have the same type of name on each platform, so you have the same brand, probably your first name. And you
Dave, I understand when you talk about platform, but let's tell everybody what a platform is.
Sure. So to me, Twitter. If you're not familiar with Twitter, which most people at this point have at least heard of the name, it's a way to...
They're getting hives now, David, when you mention Twitter, of course. You realize that.
Twitter is, it's something that I got hives for a while, and then finally I dived in. It's 140 characters that you kind of pretty much tell people what you're doing.
Each character is the letter that you type.
Correct. And at first I said to myself, what do I have to say that anyone wants to hear? And I probably don't have a lot to, I'm very busy running two businesses, but there are a lot of people that do have a lot to say, especially a lot of attorneys. The best thing that I found as a resource for Twitter is I follow other attorneys who send me links to interesting articles that they found in their topic area, whether it's intellectual property, whether it's media entertainment. So I follow attorneys that I like, and these people have become resources to me, and I've actually, believe it or not, referred several people to attorneys. If I get an email, I'm looking for a bankruptcy attorney, I look to see who the people is who send me information that's quality information, and then I send people to them, and I feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
Nancy, let's explain a little more detail first. What social networking is, what Twitter is, what Facebook is. Twitter.
See?
Or liking.
Yes, on Twitter you will tweet. So social networking it's the umbrella under which all online networking happens. So it could be for social reasons, it could be for professional reasons, and there are thousands and thousands of social networking sites out there. The primary ones that most people would have heard about, especially in the legal profession, would be LinkedIn. There is also Facebook, although most people think of that as totally social. It is not that anymore. Those are places where people they connect, they create connections or friends. And then there's Twitter, which is not necessarily, that is not a networking tool in that it is not for developing the relationship. It is really more a PR tool. It's more about quick sound bites about yourself and following other people. So it's quite a different kind of animal. But then there are also a lot of law-related social networking sites that, for example, there's LawLink, there's Legal On-Ramp, there is one started by Legally Minded. HubStreet I started to bring trusted professionals together. So there are many of them.
And there's also sites like Avo, which are not necessarily social networking, but it's a way for you to learn more about attorneys. So
exactly.
Your brand is still
That's
on.
That's avvo.com?
Yeah. They're a national company. Essentially what they do is get all the database registries from all the public data of attorneys all across the country, and they put them on their site. And they have a whole database that if you've had that attorney as a client, you can rate them and comment on them.
So, in other words, I'm using the social networking to get my message across that either I'm selling this product or I'm specializing in this area, and you should either buy my product or contact me to retain my services.
I don't connect the two yet, because right now we do a lot of social networking through
Lawline.com?
Through Lawline, where
what is Lawline.com?
As your viewers know, it's a branch of the TV show that's online CLE courses. We've actually done a lot of courses recently on social media.
Continuing legal education.
Correct. We've done a lot of things on social media recently that is about the legalities. A lot of attorneys are afraid to tweet online, or they're afraid to have their clients tweet or write a blog post, because once it's written, online, it's there forever. Whether you delete it or not, it's there forever. So there certainly are some ramifications if you write the wrong thing. But in what we use it for, we don't go on there and say, buy our CLE courses. We don't give discount codes. We don't say how great we are. What we try to do is either express, recent press that we've had or recent information that we've had, and we use it as another medium to enhance our credibility. We were recently in Entrepreneur.com, we were in Inc., we were in Forbes, we were just rated best practices in customer service, and all of that, we take that and we just let it go on all these networking channels with links to the articles. And really, this is what we're trying to do is build our credibility that, yeah, you might have heard of Lawline before or somebody might have told you, but if Forbes and Inc. and Entrepreneur, if they wrote about you and they wrote good things about you, it's a credibility factor that helps you move to the next level as an individual attorney and as a brand.
Nancy, what about the older forms of advertising? Are they still viable? Newspapers, TV, radio?
It's a maybe. You can't track it, so it's a maybe. Maybe it's okay, maybe it's not okay. The thing that's beautiful about the internet is when you are initiating a message through some of the social media sites, or even if you are sending out online newsletters, you can track the open rate, or you can track clicks. And when I say clicks, a lot of people out there don't even know what this is. They are hearing about it, but they don't know how to utilize it in their own business development or their business practice growth. So we want to be able to track who's looking and who's seeing us and what they're saying about us, and that's all great on the internet. But I want to really caution people who are watching this to remember it's only one part of a total strategy. You need to have the online strategy and you need to have the on-the-ground strategy or the face-to-face strategy. And for most attorneys, people are not going to hire you unless you actually meet face-to-face at some point. They want to know who they're working with. Maybe it's even, or maybe a phone call. But for the most part, people want to, there is that relationship. So I want to talk a little bit about the relationship part of it. Sure. Because people think they know what that really means. And they think a relationship is all about, I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, that's a relationship. It really isn't that at all. It's about building a rapport and mutual interest and helping one another instead of pitching one another. Most people are too pitchy and they get turned off and then they don't want to meet with each other. That is a really common circumstance. So even if you're going out there to meet people and you start telling everybody about the wonderfulness of you and your practice, they don't want to hear it. They want to know what's in it for me. What can we do to help each other? That takes finessing the relationship and really working to understand how each other's business is operating, what the needs are, what the opportunities are, and how you can really build it together.
I'm going to quote Nancy actually here, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, in order to really build a real relationship, it takes years, or takes at least, I don't know, several meetings from the first time you meet somebody. I know when you're at a networking event, the only thing that I'm concerned about is learning about the other person. I don't actually want to say anything about myself unless they ask. Because nobody cares. Yeah,
you have to let that stuff go. Right?
And that's why doing interviews, for if you have a blog, you do interviews with somebody, they're going to leave that in-person meeting, that phone conversation, and they're going to say, you know, David, he's a really nice guy. He's a great individual. Why? Because they were doing the talking the entire time. And they were talking about their favorite topic themselves. And that's just, you take that to networking. And again, these, if you try to connect the dots and say, well, Dave, tell me how this gets me more business. I can't tell you directly. I just know that you have to constantly do things like this. And you can't ever really think about the end game. You can't think about how am I getting business from this, because if you do that, it's a catch-22. You won't get it because people can. If you're a sales guy who is very if you're really desperate, and you're trying to close somebody, you're going to push back. It's almost like the art of negotiation is the art of a relationship.
So how do you close a deal? How do you close a sale? How do you close a client?
Well, you're jumping. Closing is way ahead. We're talking about how to build a practice and build a business, and you really have to start with putting a lot of seeds in the ground and building a lot of relationships and learning about what people's needs and interests and where their pain points are. And in that relationship building, when they need to remember when to reach out to you, because if you start telling them all about you and start pitching them and trying to close, that is when they are going to run to someone else.
I
They
understand that,
won't be closed.
but I have to pay my rent.
Right, right. Well, you have to plan in that it's going to take 18 months to 2 years to build a really strong network. And if you don't want to factor that in, you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to be desperate, and you're not going to get any more business anyway.
Okay, we're going to go to a break now, but right after the break, we're going to talk about what makes an individual an entrepreneur. You're watching Lawline. I'm Alan Schnurman, your host. Stay with us.
Doctors say it's hard telling their patients that they've lost their sight to glaucoma, when with regular eye exams and medication, it could have been treated. Once sight is lost to glaucoma, it can't be restored. Researchers are working on a cure, the only hope for millions at risk for glaucoma. Protect your sight. Call 1-800-437-2423 for a free brochure from National Glaucoma Research.
Good nutrition can lead to great things. Find out how a healthy lifestyle can help your child succeed.
Hello, I'm Alan Schnurman. You're watching Lawline. Today we're talking about building a successful business or practice. Our guests are Nancy Fox, founder of Fox Coaching Associates, and David Schnurman, president of Lawline.com and TrueNYC.com. Okay, Nancy, before the break I had said, what makes an entrepreneur? What ingredients do you have to see in others or even yourself that you know you'll be successful?
Well, David's really the expert. I mean, he is the prime expert of that in my opinion. So I just want to give him a lot of accolades in that area. But for me, what I realized, because I came out of the corporate world and I had to become an entrepreneur, it was a huge shift. And to me, the most important thing, you have to be persistent. You have to be willing to go through fire, water, rain, storm, anything. You have to be incredibly unstoppable. You have to be unwilling to let things get in your way, and you just can't let that stop you. And that's really hard for people, because when they don't get business right away, they get stopped. They get stopped.
Dave, is there a thread that runs through all these successful entrepreneurs that you know that you could say, they have this quality, they have that quality, and the third quality?
There certainly are a couple of common themes that I've developed through my interviews over the years. Some of them are, you have to be a doer. You just got to do. You can't talk about it. You can't be afraid to make mistakes. You have to network. You have to do for others without wanting anything in return. And all those go together. And if you can do these common themes, and most importantly, you can't listen to the naysayers, because everyone's going to tell you why it's not going to work. Especially in this economy, you shouldn't be starting a business. All these reasons. But you know, I go through common themes. You know, bringing this back to building a business. As soon as I think that I got things handled. We've built the business, and we have right now between 15 and 20 employees working on building it up. As soon as I think I got something handled, there's 4 more issues, and I say to myself, wow, this is much tougher than I realized. And then you got to restart the whole process again. So you got to really, you can be confident, but you have to realize as soon as you get too confident, that's when you're going to get a kick in the stomach and say, okay, let's try again. And that's what you got to do. In terms of building your brand and being an entrepreneur, it is the most important thing of a business, because without marketing, without credibility, without all of that, you can have the best product, you can be the best attorney there is, but if nobody knows about you, no one has trust in you as a person or as a business, it doesn't matter, because no one's going to buy from you or hire you as an attorney. So that's the most important thing you can do from day one, is build up your marketing, your brand, your PR, and I'd be happy if anyone's interested. You can contact me. I'd be happy to give you send you some articles that can help you on that.
At Lawline.com?
Yeah, you can just email us, support@lawline.com, and I'll send you some stuff that we have.
Nancy, there isn't a viewer out there that doesn't want to be successful.
It's true.
Everybody wants to be successful. They see their friends successful. They see their relatives successful. They want to be successful. I want you to tell them how they can achieve that.
Well, One of the things that I think David did really well, and I want to also go back to the question you asked about what does it take to be an entrepreneur. What David did beautifully was he built strategic partnerships with people, and that it came from networking, it came from meeting the right people, which he focused on, very closely, and then he built partnerships that allowed him to expand his visibility, his credibility, his network, and it really started to pay off in dollars and cents. I mean, eventually, and that's the key word, eventually, he didn't say, well, okay, I'm going to meet this person on Tuesday, and in 2 weeks I expect a piece of business. It's not how it went. He had a plan for how to develop the right strategic partnerships, and he did it. And I actually did a lot of that myself. I think it really is a good strategy.
Well, are you saying that somebody should actually sit down and do a business model, a business plan?
There are a lot of theories about this. Most successful business people, they have their own view about this. Many say yes, you absolutely have to. And some very, very successful people that I know personally have made millions, and they don't have a business plan. They have it they have an intuitive sense about how they're going to go about building their model. They do have a model in their head, and some of them don't put it down on a piece of paper, and some of them do. So I can't really say, and that's the thing about entrepreneurship, there isn't only one right or one wrong way. I don't know if you actually wrote down your plan, but most people have a strategy or a business model. So you have to have somewhat of an idea about how you're going to go about doing this. You need your goals, and then you need the strategy about how to accomplish it.
One thing I want to say specifically about goals and a plan is it's always going to change. And that's okay. It should be changing because as you do things change. But one area that I get caught into, and everybody in the world gets caught into, is the rat race. And the rat race is you're always just thinking about the goal at the end, whatever that success means to you. You're not thinking about the journey. And the journey, you get really caught up in getting that goal. But really, the fun of running a business is the fun of life is the journey. And part of what happens is, okay, well, I don't think of us as a success because I want to be this much higher. We should be there. And there's always going to be another business who's higher than you, and someone else you aspire to be. You say, well, I should be there. I'm not really happy where I am. And you just got to really take a break for a second as an entrepreneur, as an attorney who's out there, as a solo practitioner who's listening to this and is overwhelmed with what they're doing. Just realize this is cool. This is what you're doing. You made this choice, and there's always going to be stress, and there's always going to be too much work for you to do. And don't try to get it all done at once. Just focus on the one thing that we're talking about, and that's building your brand and marketing. Because not only will that help you, but it's a lot of fun because you get to meet new people and you get to build confidence in who you are. So just don't forget to enjoy the journey of successes and failures that will happen, because this is what we do.
Nancy, I've listened to everything you've said, and I've gotten a plan, and I've networked, and I've gotten business now. When do I start expanding? Everything is risk reward. Do I start hiring people? Do I start expanding my products?
It's a great question. Expansion should happen before you need it. You have to be able to see the growth pattern, and you need to start setting yourself with the right structures and the right people right before you need it. So it's an intuitive thing, but it's also a risk thing. So I don't know how, every person has a different risk aversion component, and they know what level of risk they can tolerate. So you need to start building your structure and your people at a time right before you need it.
David, I'm going to go right to you. Now, you've built businesses, you've built structures, you've built infrastructure. How did you do it?
How much time do we have? Well, specifically, I'll just say, I'll answer it this way. I read Barbara Corcoran's book, and she said when she first she went on her own, she got probably a whole floor of space in her building. She only had about 10 people or whatever, but she could expand it to 50. And instead of getting a room for 10, she got room for 50. Right. And she expanded into it.
It's a great story.
We are actually in that process now, because as you grow, you get comfortable as an entrepreneur, and you say, okay, well, I don't want to lose what I have, so maybe I should be comfortable. We've made the decision not to be comfortable, and we've actually bought more, we've leased more space to expand our company into, and we don't have all the people to fill that up yet. But unless you visualize that, and we have that there, and you have that reminder, okay, well, we're paying for that space up there, we're trying to grow. Because we have so many great ideas. The biggest thing that my goal is to build a culture in the company where everybody doesn't think of it as work, they think of it as school, or we're all working on a project. Yesterday we were all working on a project together, we're throwing out ideas. It didn't even feel like, it had nothing to do with making the sale or what we were doing that day. It was just getting that project done so it was the best that it could be. So that's what I focused on. The areas where I'm really trying to learn is now when you have 15, 20 people and you want to double that, it's a whole nother story managing people and doing that right. And that's certainly, if anyone has advice on that, I'm willing to take. I want to take it because you can always learn.
Nancy, in the moment we have left, that one individual sitting in their living room, sitting in their bedroom now, who wants that advice, who wants that encouragement to start their own practice, to start their own business, what do you say?
Go for it. You have to go. You have to be willing to do the work. You cannot expect and hope. Hope isn't a good strategy. You have to get out there and do the hard work and be willing to stick with it no matter what, and don't give up. And that's what really where people actually, that's the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful, is how long you're willing to stay at it and not give up.
David?
Well, I would say, certainly go for it. I would just say start writing. Writing your information down, sharing it with people, telling people about it, going for it. You still might say, well, I'm not sure how to do it. Tell as many people as you can about your ideas. Don't be afraid to share them, because the worst thing you can do is keep them locked up forever. And of course, doing it is the hardest and the easiest thing to do. Once you've moved forward and you start doing something, that was easy cake, or easy, you say, well, that was easy to do. You got to look at the next steps that you have to do, so keep rolling with it.
Dave, would you recommend writing a business plan?
What we do, I actually taught a course on writing business plans based on what we did, and I recommend writing a one-page business plan, maybe 2 pages at most. And really what this plan is about, what your product is, how it differentiates itself, who the competitors are out there, and how you plan to expand. And that's all you need to focus on. And maybe a couple goals you have for yourself for that year. There's no reason not to do that, because you have to think. You can't just go into business and not think. And if you can't think on 1 page or 2 pages, then you're not ready to actually go forward with it. But you should be able to do that.
Nancy, most businesses fail for a lack of proper capitalization. What do you think of that?
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. So you need to have enough reserves to take you through the highs and the lows, and that's another reason. On the other hand, some people have actually weathered the storm and they've created the right relationships in their friends and family, and they've used that to actually bootstrap it through tough times. But you have to plan for the highs and the lows as an entrepreneur or as a business person.
So how much capital, David, does someone need to start a business?
Now, of course, there's no magic answer to that question, because it depends on what you're doing and how much infrastructure you need.
Do I need a year of capital to at least pay my expenses and pay my own personal expenses?
I wouldn't even know how to answer that, but what I would say is you need to be comfortable with yourself, and when you get started, if you want to start as moonlighting, you can do that as well.
David Schnurman, Nancy Fox, thank you both for appearing on Lowline. And as always, this is Alan Schnurman, and thank you for watching Lowline.
You have been watching Lawline with your host, New York trial attorney Alan Schnurman. Mr. Schnurman will be back with you next week at the same time. If you have any questions about this week's program, please write to Lawline,